Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, Unraveling Our Midlife Era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, where we talk to women from all across the globe, from all paths of life and the journeys that they're currently on. Like, what got them here? Why? Everything leads us somewhere. There is no accidents, and coincidences is I choose into the life on a conscious and subconscious level, which leads us to our calling, which leads that calling into the contribution of what we give to humankind. So let's talk to Karina today, because your journey is one that we all have had some part in, right? Like, people who are in sports and in business have a correlation. There's a correlating factor there. So tell us a little bit about your journey of what got you here today.
Yeah, it's a very long story, but I will do my best to keep it short and keep it concise for you. But I think that something that is really, really cool is there was a study done about C-suite executives. And I don't remember the exact percentage, I'd have to look it up, but it's in the low 70% of C-suite female executives that were in sport in their life, that they were athletes at some point. So I think that and how I came about is melding the two worlds of sport and business and finding the correlations between the two, finding the connections, and being able to take things that work in sport so incredibly well and bring it to the business world, something that hasn't really been done before. There's a lot of business coaches out there, a lot of business consultants, but the same way that we train our elite athletes, why are we not training that in the business world? Because they're working the same. These teams need the same dynamic. So that's my end result. Let me fast forward over a decade, or I'm sorry, rewind over a decade. I was in undergrad and I was studying psychology. And I was a D1, a Division I student athlete. I was a rower at the University of Louisville and in Kentucky. And I was an NCAA athlete. I was performing at the highest level before going into professional sports, right? And to be honest, there's not that many professional rowers out there that are making the living wage, although it is absolutely possible to continue on and to be a professional. But a majority of us kind of sign the dotted line knowing that our college experience is going to be the last of our athletic career at the paid level, right? So now college athletes get profit from college, which is really cool. But back then, it was against rules for us to profit. We were allowed stipends and whatnot, but I wasn't making money on my athletic career. I was getting free education, which was very, very cool and a very incredible gift that I worked very, very hard for. And I got recruited to Louisville, worked hard with my high school coach in order to get that position. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life after professional or in the professional world. And I realized that a lot of the career paths that I wanted to do in the psychology world involved me continuing education and continuing to go to grad school. So secondary university, getting a master's degree or a PhD. of some kind. And so I started doing more and more research, and I didn't really want to go clinical. I didn't want to go the research route. I didn't want to go the
Mhm.
academic route. And then I found the world of sport psychology, sport and performance psychology. And there was a program at Florida State University where I'm from Florida. And so I was like, that'll be great to like head back kind of closer to home. It's only a 4 hour drive instead of a 16-hour drive from home.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Florida State. I ended up applying, getting in, not realizing how competitive the program actually was. Turns out they have like less than a 1.5% acceptance rate at that time. It's much a bigger school now, but there was only 7 of us that went into this program.
Wow.
And which was really
Congratulations.
got a ton of supervision and mentorship because we were such a small cohort, which was really incredible. So my first year, the entire program, there was only 17 of us. There was 10 in the year above me, and then there's 7 of us. And it was very, very unique and very cool, very hands-on. I worked within the Florida State college athletics, and I worked with some of the teams that were in the athletic department. And that was one of the coolest experience, hands-on experience right from the get-go. They were like, you're going to work with athletes, you're going to talk with them, you're going to counsel them, you're going to consult with them. We learn by experience. And something that I think is so incredible about that particular program is they threw you in and were like, you're just going to try stuff until things work, and we're going to help you and supervise you and give you advice and give you all that we can while we were there.
Mm.
Ended up graduating from Florida State, getting a job with the US Army, which is actually what brought me out to Washington State. So I was working as a mental performance coach. So my degree, what I was working on, working with the US Army at JBLM in Tacoma, Washington. And so I worked with the Army for about 3 years. Again, right off the bat, our supervisors and leadership were like, this is a hands-on job. You know, you spend the first 2 months, maybe 2 months, learning the like quote unquote ropes. And then they're like, all right, you're on your own, go get training and like go, perform the trainings.
Mhm.
And it was the coolest experience because there was so much trust. And there was obviously a lot of supervision and mentorship that happened that allowed us to have that much freedom. But I was 24 years old working with very high octave individuals within the US Army. I was working with lieutenant generals. I was working with I the military police. I was truly, truly so excited to be given so much responsibility at such a young age. And there was one lieutenant colonel that like came in and he brought me in to work with his division. And one of the trainings that they did was like getting soldiers ready for like high stress environments. And so they literally blindfolded them, bound their hands and their feet, and they had to jump off the high dive. And they obviously had like lifeguards in the pool and whatnot, like in case anything happened. But the whole point was to stress them out and are they able to regulate themselves? So they brought me in order to assist in that process of helping them regulate, helping them not freak out. The fact that they couldn't see, they were bound, they were jumping into a pool from 15 or 20 feet up in the air. And I know that's something personally I was like, that looks scary, but I got to help these guys, men and women that were like, jumping off this high dive and this is part of their training. Like, gotta check the
Yeah. And we're talking tied up. Like
Yes,
this is it.
exactly.
They're not just diving free dive here.
It's not just like jump. It's like actually you can't swim. So you have to calm yourself down because like, humans float, right? Like we can
Yeah.
float if we try, even bound. And so like you had to regulate yourself and your nervous system in order to jump off and then float yourself and then untie yourself, get the blindfold off, and then get yourself out of the pool. So that was a very like extreme example of what we did every day. Some of the things were just like trainings and helps them become more ready and more resilient within their mind, help teams work on communication and effectiveness within themselves, being able to effectively praise each other and not just criticize each other, but like create winning streaks of like, hey, this action is working really, really well. How do we keep going instead of like, that's working. Let's not pay attention to it because then it will start to fail. Right.
Right.
So I did that for about 3 years. And honestly, I just got sick of the corporate side of things. I love the training. I love the humans that I was working with, but I was sick and tired of asking my boss for PTO. And I was
Mm.
like, I'm from Florida to go home. I'm taking minimum 2 days off of work just to fly there. Right. And that
Oh,
doesn't include the
yeah.
time that I'm spending with my family. Now, if my family was an hour away, it would have been easier and whatnot to not
Right.
ask for as much PTO, but I wasn't getting any. I was quite literally not getting vacation time because I used a majority of my vacation time just simply going home during holidays and
Yeah.
whatnot. So I got tired of the red tape of the corporate side of things because we worked for, a company that was contracted by the army and started moonlighting back in 2021. And in 2022, I launched what is now known as True Adventure Consulting. And I am so excited and so happy about it. And it's been the coolest experience in the world. The most difficult job I've ever had is definitely business owner, but the most rewarding job I've ever had is definitely business owner. So that's kind of what came about and how I got here and how I became the business owner that we are.
So are you in Florida currently?
No, I'm in Washington State.
Wait, I thought you said you wanted to get back to home.
Yeah, in grad school. In grad school.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're still here, and I love your storyline because I wrote a couple things down. The high stress, regulating nervous system, mental performance, these aspects that you were trained on in an academic way, and then you got non theory experience because I
Mhm.
think a lot of when you're in academia and learning psychology and things like that, which always is the setup of failure when you're MBAing, right? Because
Yeah,
MBA sounds great next to your name, but it does not support you as a business owner because there's no
yeah.
amount of books. Because I think business ownership is everything that you just said. It is hands on experience. You can't be Yes, there's theory to it, but that theory goes out the window immediately. Like you
Mhm.
can know what marketing is, but until you're doing it from a perspective that is congruent to you, your services, who your clients are, like you could sign up for a million courses and still not really understand what it is. And do you really
Absolutely.
need to understand what it is, right?
No.
No, you kind of just,
It
it's
definitely
like
helps,
you.
right, to have some of the
Right.
science and whatnot, but if you can't apply the science is useless.
Yeah. And your story of the soldiers having to jump off tied up, that is a metaphor of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And that's not like a one-time gig. That's a every 30-day gig, right?
Yeah.
Of like if you could learn to regulate your nervous system from the start. I love the experience that you've had, and I love that you've decided because I am all for business ownership. I have 3 children, and all 3 of them, you know, 2 that went to school and 1 that worked for a company. Whenever they were like, "So," the golden handcuff conversation, "Mom, I don't know." And I'm like, "Listen, yes, it's a lot of work. And it's probably hardest work you'll because it is a multiverse. It is a multi-dimensional experience. It's not just a one-sided thing. But from your experience, because you were able to work with really high-performing people, and we're not just saying tagging them as high performing people, but they were in environments, high super athletes, super soldiers, right? These
Mhm.
are at the top of you use the word octane fueled people. How do you see that in the business that you run now with the people you work with? Like, is there a common denominator or is it a completely different style of high performing people that you can use that same learning and training that you did?
Yeah. Something that I talk with all of my business owners about all the time is they are performing at the same level that these high active soldiers are performing at. Your arena is just different. Well,
Mhm.
obviously, I originally came from the athlete world, and a lot of people who hold my position as a mental performance coach work within the MLB, the NFL, the WNBA,
Mhm.
whatever it is. And they all have the same problems, right? Whenever I go back and do continued education, everything's in the sport world. But every time I read these research studies that are coming out about, like, this particular track team was getting studied because of this particular problem that they're having, I'm like, oh, all my business owners have that problem. Every one of them has that problem. They may not be trying to run faster, but they're trying to
Right.
perform better, right? It's the same, the
Yeah.
arena is just different. And so all my business owners, the self-inflicted pressures that we put on ourselves as business owners is the exact same self-inflicted pressure that these athletes are. And if you actually parallel the identity as a business owner with a professional athlete, they are also trying to make the most money and do the best job that they can do, because the better they perform, the higher the paycheck is that they can sign. The bigger the signing bonus, the bigger the team, more likely for them
Right.
to be on a winning team or get traded to a company where they can actually get bigger benefits, whatever that looks like for them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they also are trying to compete for a bigger revenue, bigger income, bigger team that they want to work with and practice with and be representative of their own version of business. And although they may
Yeah.
have a sports agent that's negotiating things for them, their performance is a direct correlation of what their signing bonus and what their salary looks like every single year. Same thing in the business
Yeah.
world, right? Like, it's so easy for us to correlate as a business owner. If we stop work, especially in the early years, if we stop working, we stop getting paid. Well, if an NFL quarterback stops going to practice, he's going to get cut real quick. And,
Right.
vice versa, if that quarterback eats, breathes, sleeps football and becomes the best that he can possibly be, one of the most amazing stories and becoming one of the most incredible athletes of all time is Tom Brady. Tom Brady came
Yeah.
in and
Huge fan.
was drafted as like this underdog, scrawny
Yeah.
kid that no one thought he was going to become anything. And he was like,
Right.
I'm going to be the best that the NFL has ever seen. And look at him coming out of retirement
Yeah.
and came back and won Super Bowls and won the most winningest player of all time. And like,
Yeah.
he is just truly incredible because he dedicated that time. Same thing with business owners. Tom Brady didn't have anything special. And you can see
Mhm.
that when he was 22, 21, getting drafted by the NFL,
Yeah.
where he
Like
wasn't
his
biggest, baddest, most
no.
talented athlete. And in fact, he was scrawny.
His kind was terrible.
Yeah, all of his stats were bad or not bad, just average, very
Yes, yes.
I mean, he still got drafted, so, like, they weren't bad.
Right.
They were not bad. But, knowing that, like, business owners, I think so often we look at other business owners and we're like, "Well, they're lucky," or "They have something that we don't have," and
Yeah.
let me tell you, that is the biggest thing that can undermine success. If you believe that someone has something because they were born with it, 1, you're not giving them enough credit, and 2, you're not giving yourself enough credit. I
Yeah.
tell my business
Agreed.
owners this all the time. I'm like, I work with a lot of young moms, particularly, and some that have like kids in their like college careers and whatnot. But I always talk to moms and I'm like, if you can have a baby, C-section or natural, if you can have a baby and you're still here, there's no reason why you can't build $1 million business. Like, absolutely not. I know for
Right.
me personally, I've never had a child, but I've done really, really hard things in my life. And I'm like, if I can go summit Mount Rainier, I can go build $1 million
Right.
business. Why not? Right? Because
Right.
that was
It
hard.
actually requires it actually requires less physical strength to
Yeah.
build a $1 million business than to, get to Mount Mount Rainier.
Summit Mount Rainier, have a baby, like
Shoot.
go run a
Yeah.
marathon. I talk to my clients anytime that I catch the thing that they do physically, because sometimes it's really easy for us to like, oh yeah, I ran a marathon. And I'm like, that's incredible. And I'm like, I don't care about the time. I don't care what it doesn't matter. Someone once was like, yeah, but I had like 15-minute mile. I don't care. You ran 26 miles and didn't stop. Like,
Right.
that's so impressive. And so to look at that of like, if you dedicated months and months and months leading up to that marathon to train, whatever capacity that looks like, and you cross that finish line, you can run $1 million business. Why not?
So with that being said, why true adventure? Like where did that stem from? And is your process and is your journey to business ownership, is it something that you believe is a true adventure or is it something that you're like, I'm going to put it out there because I want it to be?
But that's a really good question. I would say a little bit of both.
Okay.
Um, I do think it is an adventure, and how true adventure came about is quite literally I've always been obsessed with nature, always been obsessed with hiking and skiing and getting outside. And I think that it's an incredible, beautiful thing to go and connect with nature and
Mm-hmm.
reconnect with yourself and your spirituality, whatever that feels like to you, your emotions, your thoughts. Like something that I really struggle with when I'm in quote unquote civilization is I'm always like headphones in and I'm always like, oh, I can't like listen to my thoughts. But when I'm out in nature, no problem. Can I sit and just like absorb
Yeah.
my own thoughts and hear them because it's like actually quiet out there, even in my backyard where there's no city noise per se, but it's different versus like I'm
Yeah.
sitting next to an alpine lake and no one's around. I feel so much more connected to me and who I am
Mhm.
and where I want to go and what I want to do and those kinds of things. So how the name True Adventure came to be is when I was doing all of these outdoor, really, really hard experiences, when I came out to Washington State, I took up rock climbing. I've obviously taken up mountaineering, backcountry skiing, like all of these really, really hard activities. And at the beginning, I was crying on every single one of them because I was like, this is physically the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And I was with people who were like, come on, you got to keep up. And I was like, I literally, and I would like cry and I would be like, I'm slowing you down and everything is terrible. And they're like, stop crying, get up. Like, let's just keep going. Like, it's fine. And they weren't ever mad at me. Like, I was surrounded by incredible humans. They were all very supportive. And they're like, if we don't make it, we don't make it. We turn around. We had a good day. It's a fun time. But I was struggling so hard with the ego side of thing of like, I have to perform
Mm.
at the level and keep up with these people who are in front of me who had years of experience on me and like so much more knowledge, are physically fitter than me by like X. And I was struggling so hard and I had to face the ego, right? I had to face
Mhm.
myself and be like, hey, you may never catch them. And that's okay. Like
Mhm.
that's like kind of tell my ego that there's someone that's always going to be faster than you. And that's
Mhm.
okay. You're not the fastest person in the world. You're not going to be the best climber in the world. You're not going to be the best mountaineer. And that's okay. You can still enjoy it and have fun. And so I started like joking that all of these really incredible adventures that happen out in the world that we would be out and we'd be going and we'd be, summiting mountains or climbing rocks or whatever it is or skiing down. And I was like, this is an adventure. And I would joke and I'd be like, but the true adventure is what you learn about yourself along the way. And
Mm.
then it started to become very, very real. And all of my friends and I started having like really these really like emotional, deep philosophical conversations on these treks. And we'd be like, oh, who is our identity and who are we? And
Mhm.
why do we feel like we have to perform or do certain things or we're not worthy? And all of these really incredible things that we started having conversations about out in nature and getting down to the root of like, when is our ego taking over? When are we doing something not because we want to, but because we think that it'll make us more impressive or put another
Mhm.
mountain summit behind our name or whatever that is? Why are we doing the things that we're doing? Because there were some days that were a lot easier that we would get up and we'd be like, oh, yeah, of course, I'm going to go do that. That sounds fun. And then other days we're like, we don't want to do that. But if I don't do that, then I'm the person that sits on the couch in the weekend instead of summiting a mountain. And I want to be the person who summits a mountain. And so we started doing a lot of like questioning and deep diving and learning about ourselves and who we are as people and the identities that we want to hold. And I was like, that is the true adventure that we are finding that like these
Yeah.
mountains are adventurous and the mountains are cool. But really, we're learning more about ourselves. And
Yeah.
then once I started a business, I was like, oh my God, it's the exact same thing. Like you
Mhm.
start a business and yes, that's an adventure. But really, the true adventure, all the demons that come up from starting a business, all of the self doubt and the imposter syndrome and the stress and the self worthiness that's tied to the results, that is the true adventure of building a business. That is the true adventure of creating a team and creating a culture around what we do at this company. And so that's how the name True Adventure came about is we're doing this very, very cool thing, but really the true adventure is like what we learn on
Yeah.
the inside. It's very like silly, mushy gushy, but also I think it's like such an incredible when people actually hear the reason behind the company name, they're like, oh my God, that's so true. Like I've learned more about myself as a business owner or myself as a mountaineer than I've learned about myself in a 9 to 5 or about myself in like
Right.
any of the other aspects of my life. So
Yeah. Or school, which
Mhm.
is a huge portion of our lives, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we start at 7 and we keep going until, some people are professional students.
I had a friend of mine that finished her final education at 29 years old, and I was like, "Damn, girl, would not
And
be
then
me.
well,
Good
then
for
you have the
you."
go backs. Like I
Mhm.
went back because I thought, man, if I got an MBA, maybe I would know more about, business. No.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I guess there's aspects of it, kind of like what you're saying is everything is an adventure, right? And it's how you deem the adventure. So when you're working with, like you said, moms, young moms, I'm guessing with young kids, do you see a through line in terms of like athletes, super soldiers, young moms? And because you had mentioned earlier, like, wow, the struggles are all the same, no matter what arena it's in. Anything that sort of challenges our norm is like we're facing the same problems. But do you find that their outcomes are like what they come out of it in terms of their empowerment and their confidence the same, or does it shift because of the stages they're in or what the bigger the goal is, I guess? Do you see similar or different more so?
In the results, I would say I didn't have a ton of time within the Army doing a ton of one-on-one work. I did a lot of
Mm.
team and culture and that kind of work. I do think that the team culture that I have worked with at the corporate level showed a lot of similarities in like we need to trust each other more and this is how we get there.
Mm.
As far as moms and business ownership and soldiers and whatnot, there's a lot of moms that feel what I like to call a trash sandwich. I came up with this in my own therapy, actually. And my therapist was like, please stop calling it that. And I was like, I don't know. I think it's a great representation of what it is. So, a trash sandwich, I always like to think of it as like quite literally an ice cream sandwich, but it's not good. Okay. So, like, it's literally a trash sandwich. We don't like it. But I think it's a really good representation of like what our self identity is. So on the outside are two, the like cookie side of things, right? So the top cookie is that outer experience that we're expressing. Nothing in here is fake. And I want to be very clear that like we're not wearing a mask or having a facade. We can present ourselves as like these incredibly confident people and moms. I see this all the time. And every single mom that I've given this example to, they're like, oh my God, I have a trash sandwich. And I'm like, yes, you do. And that's okay. We can fix it. But on the outside layer, it's like I'm appearing as confident. I'm appearing as put together. Your highlight reel is great. Like on the surface, we got the baby, we got the job, we got the business, we got the partner, we got it. Even if you don't have the partner, you have, people that help you with the baby, whatever it is. There is a presence that you're like, I have it together. And there are some days that you absolutely believe it. You're like, I'm on top of the world. I know what I'm doing. I'm a great mom. I'm a great business owner. I'm a great partner. I'm a great friend. Like, and you believe it. All we have to do is one layer down and it becomes the trash. And that's where all the self doubt and the imposter syndrome and the lack of confidence and all of those things. And as we know in ice cream sandwiches, the ice cream is the biggest part. The
Mhm.
other two sandwich it, right? But the ice cream's the biggest part. It's not always the best part. I don't know about you guys, but I like the cookie more than I like the ice cream. But the ice cream's always the biggest part. And that's where all that self-doubt, that negative self-talk, that the trash happens. And then you go one step deeper and deep down, you know that you are worthy. You know that you are
Mhm.
capable. You know that you're worthy of X amount of love. You know that you are worthy of creating a business that supports you and supports your family. You know all of that to be true. But that
Mhm.
trash, that ice cream part, there are some days that is slathered on thick. And then there's other days that the cookies are really, really close together. So you just get
Mhm.
to decide. You have to work every single day to heat up the ice cream and get it out of there as much as you can. And the thing is about the human psyche is the ice cream will never disappear. And that's not a bad thing. You're never going to have a day where you're never going to have negative
Right.
or counterproductive thoughts, right? It's just unfortunately not in the cards for the human psyche. And if they truly believe that, they're lying. I'm telling you, like the chemistry and the research in the human brain, if someone were to tell me that they never ever have ice cream in their, trash sandwich, it's just simply not true. They are believing that top one or that bottom one,
Right.
like really, really great. And that's fantastic for you. But there is always a sense of self-doubt. Why? Because the human brain is cares more about preservation and
Right.
safety than it does about success. And the
Mhm.
cookie of our trash sandwich cares about success. The middle, the ice cream, cares about preservation. It wants to
Yeah.
keep you safe. It says, don't walk up to that CEO. That's scary. Let's stay in the corner with our drink and we can just stay safe and have a good time and walk away and be exactly where we've been because we know this. We know this comfort zone.
Mhm.
We like this comfort zone. But in order to walk up to that CEO and be like, hey, you should hire me for XYZ, or like walk up to that person and be like, hey, I can fix that problem that you have. That's scary because it risks rejection. The human brain
Um,
does not like rejection in any way, right? We
right.
know this. Even just getting people to send their food back if something was made wrong is already like a massive barrier for people. I had
Yeah.
a client of mine that whenever she would meet friends out at a bar, this is like why she started, not the only reason, but like one of the reasons that she started working with me is anytime that she would meet her friends, like out at a restaurant or out at a bar, she would sit in her car and wait until one of them came out to get her to walk in with her because she didn't ever want to walk into a place without somebody already there. She didn't do things alone. And she had run
Mm.
errands alone. She was fine with that, but she didn't want to walk into a place that was supposed to be a social environment alone.
Mhm.
And now she travels alone, she flies alone, she started a business and us working together. And now she does all of that alone. And it's incredible to see what people can get over when they're
Yeah.
given the tools of this is why I feel this way and not just, oh, let's just try and like change it and fix it, but bringing awareness to the human psyche of why we're experiencing things a certain way is the first step to get over and create more regulation, more recognition, more ability to refocus our attention on something else and take on a new skill, do something alone, right?
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. So, in the different lives that you've led, how would you define confidence?
As certainty, like knowing that something is there, knowing that something will do exactly what you said it was going to do, you have confidence. An analogy that I always use and um, is how many chairs you've sat in your life is like quite literally thousands, if not 10,000, if not 20,000. I don't know. I don't know how many chairs we have sat in our lives, but so many, right? So whenever you walk into a restaurant and, the waiter pulls out the chair for you or whatever, you just sit down. You never once think about, will this chair hold me? You
Right.
just trust it and you know that that is true. You are certain that that chair will hold your weight. You are confident. Confidence and certainty are truly interchangeable because when you
Mm.
have confidence in a result, it means that you know a result will happen. You are certain that it will happen,
Right.
right? So the definition in my brain for confidence is certainty of an outcome. And the more we show the brain patterns and evidence that a certain outcome will happen, well,
Mm.
then we will begin to gain more and more confidence. We will begin to gain more and more certainty that an outcome will happen. The more chairs we sit in, the more evidence that we have that a chair is going to hold us. But we also know anytime there's swivel chairs or anytime there's camp chairs, maybe we question it a little bit more. We're like, let me slowly lower myself down, right? Because the
Right.
evidence is camp chairs have collapsed before. Camp chairs
Right.
maybe kind of like are a little more rickety, right?
Mhm.
Versus a wooden bench sitting at a picnic table. You'd be like, plop that down, no problem, right?
Right.
So all it is your brain collecting evidence whether or not a certain result is going to happen. And once you know that that connection is there, you have confidence that it's going to happen again.
Agreed. I agree. And I love that metaphor in terms of business ownership because that's really what it is, evidentiary, right? It's a habitually consistent habit to be resilient that
Mhm.
the outcome will show up. And then for the outcome and the result to be as close to 100% of what you believe it's going to be, it's just a buildup. It's a compound, you are investing
Mhm.
into. And so when you look at where you're at in the trajectory of your life and you can see what you will be at 50 years old based on what you're doing now, right? Based on the life you've built in the past that you've had. Let's just say you're walking down the street and you walk into the cafe and you're like, "Oh my gosh, look, there's 50-year-old Karina." What do you think she would be like, and what do you think she's doing?
think she's gonna be so chill. I think she's gonna be so relaxed and still be working, still be performing highly, but a majority of her life will be physical adventures, like traveling more
Mm.
and mountains more and all of that. I think that she will have this confidence about her knowing that she has built the exact business that she wants and problems will always come up, but she knows that she's resourceful enough to figure it out, that she's capable. And there's never going to be a time that I think that she's going to be like, and now we're coasting. I don't think she believes in coasting. I don't think she believes in the like, I have business figured out. I can be on autopilot in the back burner. But I think she knows that like another problem will arise, another thing will happen. And I'm resourceful and confident that like I can figure it out. And I've hand selected a team that will help me figure it out and be better than me at figuring it out. One of my friends she has 6 employees underneath her and she had a problem within her business and she actually had to call her employee and be like, I need help fixing this. I don't know how to fix it. SOS. And it was like a super, quite literally like everything's on fire type of thing. And I was like, that is the coolest experience for you to know that your employee knows more than you in this particular aspect. And I think that this 50-year-old version of Karina will have a team like that where I'll be like, I don't know how to solve that problem. Let's call Sarah. Let's call, whoever. And I think that I will have been able to find the right people, become resourceful enough to do exactly what I want when I want and have the business that I want because of the resourcefulness that I am battling and learning to be now.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful version of you. And, there's been so much talk and conversations around the future is female. This has been a thing for the last few years. I mean, you could see big, big brands really investing in women. Nike is one of the most famous ones. Dove is, right there. How do you see the future of female? Compare, like knowing what you know now, right? You work with moms, with young kids. What do you think the future is for with AI, with technology, with sort of the world closing in, but also getting wider? It's in this a unique place where it's expanding, but it's also isolating at the same time. Where do you see the future for females?
I hopefully in my life want to see I truly, truly hope. Unfortunately, I do think that this is still far away, but I hope that I get to see this in my life. And I hope that like my kids get to experience this, especially if I have a daughter. But Morgan Freeman actually said this in an interview in regards to race. And he was like, it becomes a non issue the second we stop talking about it. Now, that's not to say we should just stop talking about like the, gender pay gap, or we can't not talk about it right now, right? We can't not talk about the discrepancies that happen between men and women and those things because they are issues and they are not fixed, right? But
Mhm.
his idea about race is the second that we stop having to speak about it is a time that it's actually been solved. It is
Mm,
actually equal. People actually look at each other like, you are my equal and I don't care what color you are. And I
mhm.
think the same goes for female, male, dynamic there is I really hope in my day and age, we don't have to ask that question. Like truly, and I
Mhm.
think that that's also really empowering is I want everyone to be able to go after what they want. I also recognize and realize that women are raised to be quieter and raised to be less confident and are raised to not ask the question. And I do have to say, like, I am very, very privileged that that was not the narrative that my parents gave me. And I am an only child and I'm a female of a immigrant family. And so my mom was born in Mexico, so I'm first generation American. And I'm very, very lucky that I had two single parents. They separated when I was very young. So I was raised by two single parents and they empowered me to go after anything that I wanted. And my dad was like, like before Ariana Grande said it, like, you want it, you got it. Like, you want it, you got to ask for it. Like, all you have to do is ask, and likely they'll say yes. Right. And I was absolutely raised in that capacity. And I hope that many women in this day and age know that like it's our job to pass that along and to raise our future daughters to be empowered. And the only way for this to stop being conversation is if we truly can look each other in the eye and also look at men in the eye and not think we're better than them because we're not,
Right.
right? We are
Right.
supposed to be equal. We want equality. Let's be equal, right?
Right. And
We're not
equal in the
better.
fairness of how we are built and how we are designed. I
Yeah.
think there's a big portion of that that we have to wrap our head around. It's not like mano a mano type of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
It's like the equal respect of, yes, you're designed this way. Cool. You're designed this way. Amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a big conversation to have. Well, like you said, I love what you said that the minute we don't have conversation, not the ignoring
It's
of
not
the
ignoring.
discrepancies
Yeah.
and the challenges, but
Mhm.
when we make it not be the main character in the story, then we're like 90% solving it.
Yeah. Yeah,
More
absolutely. So I
yeah.
think about that quote all the time whenever we speak about social issues, and I'm like, especially when people are like, "That's not an issue," and I'm like, "If it's still a conversation, it's still an issue."
Yeah.
Right? If we're still having to have this conversation, it's an issue. If I
Yeah.
feel like I'm being dismissed, it's an issue.
Yeah.
And there's so many
Yeah.
conversations and there's so many times, like I said, I'm very privileged that I grew up how I grew up. And I'm very privileged. There was actually only one instance within the US Army that I felt like I was discriminated against as a woman, other than that in the 3 years. And it was one conversation and that was it. Other than that, I felt incredibly respected and very much like, and there were some times that I was like overly respected. And I was like, we don't need that either. When a soldier was like, "Sorry, ma'am, for cursing," and I was like, "Would you curse in front of this guy? Then you can curse in front of me. Like, we shouldn't." I appreciate that you're trying to be
Yeah.
super respectful, but I need you to like be honest with me here. But
I
it's a
think you bring up a
conversation.
really good point. We get too extremist on certain things, right?
Absolutely.
Like, bring it up, it's a problem, let's find a solution, and then if that solution doesn't work, let's try something else. And where I agree with you, I think entrepreneurship really helps us to navigate those spaces better because you can't be so, "That's it. This is the only goal I have, and until I
Yeah.
get there, because it
Right.
moves in such a lazy river, raging river,
Mhm.
waterfall,
Absolutely.
ocean type of way, so you
Yeah.
can't ever predict it, but you can have a plan for it, right?
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
I think that's fair. So, so as we get closer to the end of the conversation, I am curious though, what do you think in true adventure that you have, like if, they say that it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert in something, and there's that language in business world, niching down, niching down. If you could pinpoint the one expertise or one niche or one support or one result that you create for your clients, what would that one thing be?
Getting curious. Like
Mm.
for sure getting curious because I think curiosity can solve a lot of problems. And I teach my clients to get curious about their brain, get curious about their emotions, get curious about things that they believe are true, get curious about what their clients are thinking, getting curious about what their team is thinking. a lot of my clients will spiral and be like, my client's going to fire me. My client hates me. And I'm like, is that true? How do we know that that's true? What's our evidence here? And so
Mhm.
getting them to get curious about like this thing popped into my head. Do I know that that's true? Or am I making up a story? And so I
Right.
teach them to get curious about what is grounded in facts and evidence versus what is a story that our brain is making up because there's a blank space there. Our brain does not like ambiguity. It does not like the unknown. So it'll fill a blank space with whatever it wants, right? So getting curious about, okay, but what are actually the facts here? What are actually what's going to happen or needs to happen or did happen, right? Is it pull up an email? I know for me personally, something that I recently was like, oh, I need to look at that again is I was believing that my conversion rates in my business were getting lower. And I was like, I'm getting bad at sales calls. I don't know what's happening. SOS, this is my problem. And then my business coach did the same thing to me that I do to all of my clients. And she was like, well, let's look at the data. And we put all of the consult calls that I had on a spreadsheet and then all the ones that I converted. And I was like, actually, my conversion rate hasn't wavered more than like 6%, which is like not
Right.
a lot. Right. And I was like, actually, there is no issue with my sales. I was just having less sales calls. And so it
Right.
feels like I'm not converting as much, but it's because I'm not converting as much with a smaller pool, right? So I only
Right.
had
Right.
5 consult calls versus 20 consult calls. So that shows us that we need to pay attention in the business world to something else. It's not my conversion, it's not my sales conversations, it's higher up in the funnel. Right. So we need to
Yeah.
do that in business all the time, getting curious about the story that we're telling us. Do you actually not know where your leads are coming from, or have you just not tracked it? Do you actually know that
Right.
your client's going to fire you, or are you making up a story in your head because they
Yeah.
told you that they didn't like the edits that you gave them? Is it,
Right.
whatever it is, but getting curious about what's real and what's drama? Like, what are you making up in your
Yeah.
brain to think or to believe or whatever it is.
Or to that you assume is what is for you to chew on
Yeah.
and to create a result around. And I love that you because curiosity is assumably a byproduct of like a habit or a drive or a goal. Like you don't get curious first. It's like the
Right.
second thing you do or the fifth thing you do, but first you got to have all the tangible things. But curiosity is, I believe, to be more of a tangible result than writing a task list first.
Oh,
Because
for sure.
they say that the difference between a successful business and a failing business is clarity. And when you're not curious, it's hard to get clear. Think what you're doing is clear. But writing a task of 100 things to do is actually management, not business ownership, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
Oh,
just
fully.
managing a business that exists, but you're not really growing it, which is what entrepreneurs do is growth driven thought
Absolutely.
process. I love it. Is there anything that you're doing currently right now that you would, because summer is a little bit of downtime for, especially in the industry of business coaching and business like that. Is there anything that you're putting it out there that we can connect to or get in touch with or in?
Yeah. If you are a business owner that has a team of 5 to 30-ish people, I am going to be in the fall launching a lot more of the one-on-one support. I used to do one-on-one, I switched over to group, and now I'm reopening my one-on-one. So you can just send me a message on Instagram at True Adventure Co. And if you are interested in getting your team culture to be exactly what you want it to be, the loyal team that can read your mind and understand exactly what you want and be the motivated team that gets curious instead of the ones that just check off all the boxes, that is absolutely like that coaching offer. I'm going to start putting that out in the fall. But if you're interested now, you can absolutely send me an Instagram DM and we can chat about it. Also, in March of 2026, I am taking about 10 female founders to Baja, Mexico. So this will be year
That's
4
right. You
that we're
sent me a
going.
little thing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will be the 4th year that we're going. 3 spots have already been taken. And I haven't even been promoting. I just bought the venue and that's all I've done. So I'm so very excited. We have 7 more spots that are more than welcome to have incredible female
Yay.
founders, CEOs come on. I've had women who have solopreneur businesses all the way up to teams of 70, revenues that are generating $1,000 a month to $4.1 million a year. So there is absolutely a wide range of incredible individuals. If you want to be in this room, again, you can find all of that. You can find that on my website if you want to like go stalk before getting, on a call with me. You're more than welcome to. If you want to just go click a link for everyone who's listening. So follow me on Instagram, get all the free stuff and whatnot. But Baja, Mexico is March 27th through April 1st, 2026. And then the one-on-one offer for business owners that have teams of 5 to about 30. That will be opening in the fall. But if you're interested now, go ahead and shoot me a message on Instagram.
And is that like a retreat, let's get together type of environment as founders, or is it a next level, like mastermind type
For
of scenario?
Baja is a business retreat specifically for female founders. And so we're leveling up. It is absolutely, we're doing workshops. We do masterminding together. People are bringing in information for themselves and like goals of what they want to accomplish. Retreats are the perfect place if you are constantly working in your business and not on your business. Baja Business Retreat is the place where you can actually check out and get away from all of that and spend 6 days where you're dedicated, focused, working on your business, strategizing and planning out years in the future and how to actually get there with other female founders who get it, who are on the same page as you and want to build as well. And I got a lot of partnerships and clients and people who hire each other that come out of these retreats. So cool to see all of these incredible, very different female businesses come together. Wide range of people from like HR firms to real estate, like flipping houses, Airbnbs,
Yeah.
to estheticians, to VA cohorts, interior designers. Like we have such a wide range of individuals that come on these that have different businesses. And if you are just looking for a place to level up and understand what you need to do, how you need to do it, you walk away from Baja every single year. We joke that you come to Baja to have an aha and an aha moment. And
That's
it's
cute.
just like, it's so special. The first year that I did it, I was like, oh, this is going to be one and done. And I put a deposit on the venue the final day of the retreat for the following year. I was like, no, we're doing this again. I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so this is, like I said, we're going back for year 4. So obviously it's a hit. Served over 40 women that are coming in, or 30 women thus far, right? So like about 10 a year that we've been getting. And I'd love to welcome you and all of your listeners to come and join us in Baja.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. I often think women, we do everything differently in business. And this is our version of like, let's go golfing, Ted. Right?
Absolutely. This is our golf trip. Right? Tell your husbands, tell your partners, tell your friends, your employees that you're checking out for 6 days. You're going to Baja to work on your business.
I
Unless
agree.
it's
I
a
think there
write-off.
needs to,
We love a good
yes,
write-off.
there you go. Okay, now before we end this conversation, gosh, I keep saying that. I keep saying, okay, we're going to end this conversation, but then I keep like wanting to like, because then I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm like, wait, hold on, but we didn't even talk about the other thing that you do, the community that you have, of why one of the reasons we connected through another person that comes to your events. And so is that something you curated yourself? You created? Tell us a little bit about this other community that you've got. Well, is it another community? Tell me. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
making
so
stuff
they're
up.
2 different
Just
they're
tell me.
2 different businesses, yeah. So I run CEO Society Seattle, and we just opened our 2nd chapter, CEO Society Tacoma, which is very exciting, very, very cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So this community was originally founded by Molly Nutt, who owns Acorn Digital Strategy, and she is a very, very dear friend of mine. And actually how we met is she was a client and she came on the Baja Business Retreat year 1. She actually had just started CEO Society. So we met on Baja and I came to the second ever CEO Society meeting and I just became like super involved with the society. And obviously Molly and I became very, very close as friends, as business friends and whatnot. And her company of Acorn Digital Strategy, it's a copywriting and email marketing agency. It got so big and so successful. It was like, Karina, I need you to take on CEO Society. She was like, I'm doing a bad job. And she wasn't. She was doing an incredible job. But in her brain, she was like, I need someone else to like dedicate the time to this. And so she handed the reins over to me in March of this year of 2025. And so I've been running CEO Society since. And it's been such an incredible gift and such an incredible experience. And the women have 86 incredible members of the CEO Society. They're all female founders that live in the greater Seattle and Tacoma area. And they come for workshops and networking every single month. And we do soirees and we do holiday parties and we do meetups. We are partnering with the Seattle Reign to go to a game together for women supporting women's sports. Like, it is such an incredible.
Totally up your alley too.
Yeah, exactly. When they reached out to me, I was like, oh my God, so cool. So I'm like so stoked to be a part of this. And it feels like, yeah, I host it, but it honestly feels like I get to be a part of it, which is really cool and a really fun experience as someone who is organizing everything and whatnot.
Well, I love your energy climbing Mount Rainier. Let's just put it that way.
That's so fair. I think there's very few people that are. And honestly, sometimes I question why I am. So,
oh my gosh, no, that's what I love about the Northwest. And I agree with you. When I'm with the trees, I feel like I'm just chatting with them and I get my best ideas, whatever I'm struggling with in business. The next day when I go for my walk, it's over. I am like, oh my gosh. Look at me figuring it out. Thanks, trees. Thanks. Yeah, right. Because you really connect with yourself. I highly encourage I have not quite attended any of the offers that you have, but because now we're connected and we're friends, I am definitely going to make my way and figure out how to get involved with anything that you offer. I really appreciate your time and your energy and your story of who you are today and why you're somebody we need to listen to and be a part of as we are the future, right?
Yeah.
The future is female. Yeah. And that's not a bashing of males and that's not a, disregard to what is happening outside of the future is female. I am just declaring it because we should say things that hasn't been said for years and years and years. And it's okay to be there. So, I'm really grateful that you said yes to my request because we didn't even get to know each other. I was just like, hey, you want to come on? And you're like, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Together.
Absolutely. I mean, we always on Baja, we always do some kind of adventure. We've gone on hikes. We've done snorkeling with the sea lions. We've done surfing. So always really, really cool adventures that we're going to go on. My next retreat is actually in Spain in September. And we're going sea kayaking. So there's always an adventure aspect to every single one of my retreats. So,
well, you're fun and I love it and everything that you're doing. We do live in the same arena. And for those who don't, come fly out to Washington.
Come hang out with.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed, especially in the summertime. Well, other than that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everything that you've shared. And I really look forward to being a part of your world and getting to know more of your adventures.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Go out there and give the gift of what only you can give into the world. Until next time, bye. Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.